Shalom, this is Yair speaking to you from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, speaking to you on behalf of Brit-Am Hebrew nations. We believe that the lost 10 tribes now, as identical entities, bodies, groups of people that existed, that still exist, whose descendants still exist and may be traced, are to be found amongst Western peoples, amongst the nations of Western Europe, as well as North America and related nations such as Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and so on. We have proven it. We have proof of it, and this is what we believe. And our movement works to spread knowledge of this information and to research it, to delve into it, to arouse interest in this subject, as well as to discover and reveal as much information concerning it as possible. And we have proofs, and we spread knowledge of our proofs, and we thought that it would be worthwhile to discuss this proof and also to consider reasons as to why these proofs are not always accepted, or if there are any problems with it. And so this is what we thought, this is what we think concerning the evidence that the lost 10 tribes now are to be found amongst Western peoples. And we'll let you know. We'll tell you in this talk. But judge for yourselves, or you may look it up on our website and look at it and be convinced or not convinced, as the case may be. Our proofs, we have different proofs, and our proofs are divided into different headings and different fields. One of them is biblical proofs. We have biblical proofs saying that the lost 10 tribes now are to be found amongst Western peoples, are in the West. And you will recall that originally there were 12 tribes of Israel. These 12 tribes of Israel were in the land of Israel. They split into two different sections after the death of King Solomon. There was the northern kingdom of Israel in the north, the kingdom of Israel in the north, and there was the kingdom of Judah in the south. The kingdom of Judah was comprised of tribes of Judah, Benjamin, after that most of the tribe of Levi, and also representatives of the other tribes, but as minorities. Whereas most of the northern tribes were in the north. They were in the northern kingdom of Israel. And this kingdom of Israel was conquered by the Assyrians, and all of its inhabitants were taken into exile. They lost consciousness of their identity, of their ancestry. They lost awareness of who they were, and this is not an unusual phenomenon. Most peoples in ancient times went through the same process. They disappeared to history, but according to tradition, according to the Bible, they will return. They still exist as entities, as traceable entities, as concrete bodies of people. They had a task to play in history, and they did fulfill this task, at least to some degree. And eventually they will return. They will be made once more aware of who their ancestors were. They will return to the land of Israel, and they will reunite with Judah and become reconciled with Judah and with the God of Israel. And these peoples are in the West. They're amongst West European peoples, or peoples of West European origin on the whole. Even though there were offshoots of them elsewhere, Western Europe and West European peoples, or peoples of West European origin, are where we have to speak for them, or look for them, concerning bodies of whole bodies who gave cohesive expression to their Israelite ancestry, even on a subconscious level, and to fulfill the destiny of Israelite tribes and of Israelite entities, as the Bible had promised, as the Bible had prophesied that they would do so. So the Bible speaks about this quite often. We have a list of 122 biblical proofs, and that is not all. There are much more evidence than we have brought, and a more intensive and a more detailed, deeper study of the Bible by others or by ourselves in the future, God willing, will bring this evidence, this additional evidence to light. But even now we have a lot of different proofs. We have a lot of different proofs, and these proofs are quite conclusive in their own right. We have divided these proofs for the sake of classification into two different classes. There's the geographical indications These indicate the lost ten tribes in the end times will be at the geographical extremities of continental land masses. They will be in islands and in peninsulas. They will be in several oceans. They will be in the most salubrious climates, the most healthy places. They will be concentrated in the west, even though also being in other areas. The west meaning from the west, and also they will be in the north. We're taking the land of Israel as a centre. They will also be in the Atlantic Ocean area, and they will be in France and Britain and the surrounding regions, in an area indicated by parthomegalithic monuments such as the Dolmens. Also a branch of them will be in Australia. So taking all of these different indications as a whole and bringing them all together, looking for a group that fulfills all of these criteria, we come across West European peoples, especially those of the British Isles, who fulfill all of those. They have populated North America, they populated Australia, they are also found in South Africa, they are to be found in many oceans. They were seafarers, they were in islands and in peninsulas and several oceans. And they were to the north and to the west of the land of Israel, and they were in the Isles of the Sea. And also on the borderlands, bordering the Atlantic Ocean area. And this is the geographical evidence, and we'll go on discuss the other types of evidence. But before we do so, I'd like to point out that a phenomenon that we come across when we bring this type of evidence to the attention of others is that people object to it. I once discussed this with a certain intellectual and academic person of academic background, and he had asked me, he was interested, he believed in the Bible to some degree, or respected it. And also he also respected the historical evidence that we all have. He was sympathetic, but he tried to be objective. So he asked us what proof do we have. So he brought up different proofs, and every proof we would bring up, he would bring forward an objection. He would say they're in the west. So we say a lot of people in the west. So we say they're in the north. We say a lot of people in the north. We say well there were this and that, and he says this could cover a lot of people, and he claimed that the evidence was too general. It applied to too many people, too many possible candidates to be selective to say that a specific group of peoples were intended. And this is the claim he brought forth, and we have come across similar claims made later, similar types of argument. And we say that have to use three important principles must be applied. Yeah, he also said that when we bring claims that verses describing the exiles of Israel as being in certain areas, how do we know they're applying to the exiles from the 10 tribes, and not to those of Judah, not to the Jewish people, because the Bible also speaks of them. So we said that we have three major principles that enable us to decide, or to clarify whether or not a verse, specific prophecy is referring to the 10 tribes or not. One is the context. The context, integration, and biblical commentary. They are the three points. Context, integration, biblical commentary. What does context mean? It means that if the verse is in a passage talking about the lost 10 tribes, referring specifically and expressly to the lost 10 tribes, and we may say that this verse is also referring to the lost 10 tribes. We also have to have integration. The principle of integration says that each point must be considered not only on its own, but it must be referred to as to how it fits in with other verses, how it is part of a comprehensive whole, of a whole picture. I brought an example, an analogy, a parable, you may say, of someone who's looking for a person named John Brown. Now we know that the person's name is John Brown, first of all. We know that he is 6.5 feet tall. We know that he has a wife called Susan, a son named Tom. We know that he wears glasses. We know a lot of things about him. So we look around for someone who fits all of these attributes. There's all of these attributes. Tom is John Brown is who we're looking for. A lot of people are called John. A lot of people are called Brown. Someone who is called John Brown is also a common name, but it's less common. It's much less. We have a much lower field to search from, we limit our field much more if we direct our specifications towards someone called John Brown and not to someone called John or someone called Brown. Then we bring in the other criteria. Also Susan. Susan is a common name. A lot of women are called Susan, but not that many women called Susan are married to someone who's a dafka, especially called John Brown. And so too, 6'6.5 feet tall. A lot of people are 6.5 feet tall, but someone who's 6.5 feet tall and is also called John Brown is less common. Tom, someone with the name Tom. A lot of people have a son's name Tom, but someone called John Brown also has a son named Tom, and also fits the other attributes. And so we get to a level of probability that makes it almost certain that someone who fits in all of these are all of these points is the person we're looking for. And the more points we get, the more points we see that the person concerned fits, the more certain that may we be that we are in the right direction and that we have found the right person. And so too with the biblical proofs. The Bible says lost in tribes in the west. It says they're in the north. So we should look, according to this, we should look for a group of people that is both in the west and in the north. And so too, some type of people or group of people fit all of the necessary claims, all the necessary pointers, and we find them only. We find them amongst Anglo-Saxon English-speaking peoples and also in their related nations in Western Europe. Only amongst those peoples do we find groups who fit all of the necessary criteria. We also have rabbinical commentary. Sometimes rabbinical commentary tells us who the verses are referring to, and so this helps confirm what we have, the direction we are already headed in. We also have other biblical proofs such as recognizable symbols. For instance, in the book of Numbers 24, verses 7 to 9, it describes the lost 10 tribes and describes Israel as an assertive entity, as a kingdom, independent kingdom, making its mark known in international circles which means the lost 10 tribes according to other sources, and mustn't refer to the lost 10 tribes to Joseph especially. And Numbers 24 describes this entity of Israel as being like a lion and a unicorn. A lion and a unicorn happen to be the symbols of Britain, who is a major Israelite nation. So this is a proof. Also historical behaviour. We're told the lost 10 tribes would be a group of people, so would rule over the nations, so would become the dominant world power, be the policemen of the globe, be seafarers, be a light for the Gentiles, and so on. Genesis 12, Genesis 18, Genesis 24, Isaiah 24, Amos 6, and so on. A lot of verses. Look it up on our website, look up the relative articles, and you will see. So the lost 10 tribes in their places of exile were destined to behave in a certain way, and we find that only Britain and the relations of Britain over the seas and also the USA and related nations have fulfilled the role of the 10 tribes as described by the Bible. We also told in the Bible that the lost 10 tribes would be separate from Judah, they would not be known to Judah, Judah would not be able to recognize them, that they would be adherents of Christianity, practicing a religion that is a Christian religion in other effect. That doesn't mean that Christianity is the correct religion. The religion that will be practiced will be Christianity, and that also they will be connected to a non-Israelite group of peoples known as Goma, and these are European peoples. So this also describes the lost 10 tribes and describes the people we are searching for and the people we believe to be descended from the lost tribes of Israel. The blessings, we have blessings, the lost 10 tribes would be extremely numerous, agricultural plenty, mineral resources, to possess the gates of the enemies, meaning the strategic passes like the British Empire did, and now America also does. And these are the only great world empires that have concentrated upon this, have been known for it, marked for it, for getting control somehow or other of strategic points, especially those that give them an entry and give them an interest, give them an admittance, as if to say, into the strategic areas of those powers that are potentially antagonistic to them. And these are the gates of the enemies. And this is what the British Empire did. It gained control of such places, and now the USA is doing the same thing all over the world. And this is one of the characteristics of these two empires, the British Empire and the American Empire. Also ancestral names in general. The ancient Hebrews were descended from Abraham, then from Isaac and from Jacob. And Jacob gave rise to 12 sons, and these 12 sons gave rise to 70 grandsons of Jacob. And these 70 grandsons gave their names to clans, and some of these clans became nations and tribes in West European history in their own right. And so tracing these names and finding these names is also a proof, and we find these names. For instance, Yankee, you have the word Yankee. Yankee is a nickname for an American, at least in overseas. Overseas, I don't know what Americans say in America, and I understand that in the USA, Yankee is a name which people in the South give to people in the North. But for outsiders, people outside of the USA often refer to the Americans in general as Yanks. Yank is short for Yank or Yaakov or Jacob. It's the same as Jack. So we could say that the Americans are nicknamed after Jack, they're nicknamed after Jacob. And the other names are the same. The other names are also become nicknames of different entities amongst the tribes of Israel. And we also find that different tribes of Israel had different attributes, and these different attributes are described by the Bible and by rabbinical sources, and we find these attributes amongst peoples of Western Europe. For instance, it was said that Zebulun would dwell on the shores of the sea, Genesis 49:13. We found in Holland, in northern Holland, there was originally a people, in the time of Ptolemy, there was a people known as Sabulin Goy. Goy means people, Sabulin means Zebulun, a people of Zebulun, in the region of Holland. And Holland, the people now live in Holland. 2/3 of the country is below sea level, or at sea level. 2/3 of the country needs protection of dams and dikes, walls, and all kinds of drainage arrangements to protect it from the sea. Literally speaking, they do dwell on the shores of the sea, and they are the only people who do so. And so this is the national characteristics which help us. It's not absolute proof in its own right, but it is an indication, and it is taken with hundreds of other proofs, all pointing in the same direction. Does say something that is proof. Does prove it. We also, so this is a biblical proof. In addition, biblical computer codes prove, biblical codes prove, and they confirm their findings. But these are problematic. Not everyone believes in them. Not everyone understands them. It also it helps to have a good understanding of Hebrew in order to appreciate them. Nevertheless, it is evidence and it exists, and it has helped us. And we have a rabbinical proof. A rabbinical proof includes the principle: the 10 tribes who lost will return, and they are not at present obligated by the law. The Talmud says the 10 tribes were exiled to places where historically we find the ancestors of Western people. And rabbinical commentators on biblical verses confirm our understanding that certain verses refer to the 10 tribes, as distinct from the Jewish diaspora, which is also referred to by the prophets. We have Rashi and Nachmanides who both, on their commentaries, on their remarks concerning the book of Obadiah, located the 10 tribes in Zarephath, which they said meant France, or meant the area to the west of it, or to the north of it, and according to Abarbanel, another commentator, included the island of Brit-Am. And in addition to that, we have rabbinical works concerning the characteristics of Joseph and other tribes, and which are shown to fit our tribal identifications of different entities amongst Western peoples. And we have this historical proof. This relies on historical writings, legends, linguistics, archaeology, names of places and peoples, and so on. And the historical proofs are good. They're good ones and they're conclusive. When we present them to academics, they're either rejected or accepted as remote possibilities. And this is despite the fact that we reference them. They are themselves often taken from academic works. But our explanations, our understandings are not in accordance to the conventional acceptance. In the past they may have been, at present they are not, but nevertheless they stand up. They are evidence. It does tie together, and we keep pushing it and keep presenting it, and eventually it is accepted, or if not accepted, at least it receives a hearing and is taken into consideration. We can show from Assyrian records that the Gemiri Simeons of Gomer within the confines of the Assyrian Empire, interacting with the Assyrians. They rebelled against the Assyrians. The Scythians emerged from the Cimmerian ranks. Both groups moved out of the region of the Assyrian Empire. They moved to the north and to the west. They moved into Western Europe. And this can be shown, this can be proven, but academics may or may not accept it, but they will argue with us on different points. We have to fight all the way, saying how do we know that these were Cimmerians and Scythians, because the Assyrians said so. How do we know that they were the same groups as the people who later appeared in the north? And how do we know that the ones who appeared in the north were the ones who went to the west? And how do we know that the ones who went to the west were who we say they were, and didn't just pick up their names and their artifacts and the different identifying points through other means? And we can prove it, we can show it, or we don't necessarily have to do all the work ourselves. We bring their own records of academics in different fields and show how it all ties together, makes a composite interlocking picture, and from this evidence we can prove our point. And it can be done, but it needs work to do it. But this is what we do. There's some problems with the evidence. What type of problems do we have with the evidence? Well, first of all, we depend a lot on the Bible. Not everyone believes in the Bible. And people who do believe in the Bible are open to biblical proofs. But even then, they have their own religious beliefs. And they are wary of considering biblical evidence brought by people who do not share these beliefs or this understanding with them. And we can understand them. The Bible is often misused to justify all kinds of claims that are not true, are not correct. And so there's a certain barrier to listening to us amongst a lot of people who otherwise believe in the Bible. But eventually, if we keep going, we will also here too, we will get a hearing. Rabbinical proofs are accepted by those who check them out, and getting people to check them out is another story, but they are accepted, they are acceptable. We have proofs, we have published them. We can always use more evidence as well as continuing to refine that which we now have. We need to publish more, to give out more of what we have, also to keep the book publications in print, and to keep pushing them. Eventually, God willing, we will receive the audience and the attention that this subject deserves. This all requires money, which we usually do not have. But God willing, we will also overcome this barrier, or others will. And anyone who wants to help us, to contribute to us, is welcome to do so. Actually, is requested to do so, because we need money. We need money to function, and we function for the good of all the Israelites. And this is what we have. Another point is that we have the DNA. DNA, our beliefs and claims do not fit in with DNA convention, as it is conventionally understood. DNA does not agree with us, and we hold that the DNA as it is presented to the public is mistaken. It is misleading. DNA studies deny the fact that the DNA is often influenced by the environment. The environment determines your DNA to some degree. But there's also hereditary factors. The DNA can prove things, who you descend from or who your immediate forefathers were, to some degree. At least we believe they can. We assume they can. We assume this aspect of the DNA studies are correct. But we are not certain. We do not know how far back these results are reliable. And DNA on the whole is not consistent with our findings, but there are aspects of it that are, and we are working on it. We study it. We do not close our eyes to any facts. We try and reconcile the facts that we have from one field with those within another, and eventually it may be that also DNA findings may also confirm conclusions, because in some fields they are already doing so. In some aspects of DNA is already suggesting or indicating quite strongly that we are correct. This may sound contradictory, and it is, but that is their problem as much as ours. And so this is evidence that exists. The scriptural evidence from the Bible is very strong. It is also confirmed and strengthened by rabbinical proofs. Secular historical evidence is also strong. It's not always consistent with present academic understanding, but this may be overcome. We have a problem with contemporary DNA theories, which in some degree are contradictory to our beliefs, but this may change. The present DNA has some strong points, and other areas appear to be in error. And it's only a new science, and everything may work out as we believe it shall do. To all events, the Bible helps us. The Bible is correct. The Bible suggests, or it not only suggests, the Bible confirms and announces, declares that we are correct, that our claims concerning lost in tribes are correct, and this is a very serious claim. And someone who disagrees with it is hereby challenged or even requested to tell us why it is not acceptable, why our proofs are not acceptable, because our proofs are almost absolutely certain, and at all events the truth requires that they be taken into consideration and they be given a serious appraisal and be appreciated for what they are. And thank you very much. This is Yair Davidi. I've been speaking to you from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, and I've been speaking to you on behalf of Brit-Am Hebrew nations. Thank you.